Shin stared out the window of the transport ship and watched the stars blur past. He still could not believe he was here. 3 weeks ago, he had been working on water recycling systems in the Mars colonies. Now he was traveling to an alien arena station to fight warriors from across the galaxy. The lottery had chosen him. Out of 18 billion humans spread across Earth and the colony worlds, the computer had picked his name. Shin, combat engineer, age 28, no family, no special skills beyond fixing broken machines and surviving in the harsh Mars environment. He was not a soldier. He was not a champion. He was just a man who knew how to solve problems. The transport ship shuddered as it approached the massive arena station orbiting Prime. Through the window, could see the structure growing larger. It looked like a giant metal flower, with dozens of petals spreading out from a central core. Each petal held thousands of spectators. The whole thing was bigger than any city had ever seen. First time seeing it, a voice asked. Turned. A woman in a formal Earth diplomatic uniform stood in the doorway. She was in her 30s, with sharp eyes and a tight smile that did not reach those eyes. Yes, said. I am Park. I will be your liaison during the trials. She moved into the room and sat across from him. I need to explain what you are walking into. Nodded. He had received briefings, of course, but they had been brief and technical. Facts and rules, nothing more. Pulled up a holographic display. Images of alien creatures appeared in the air between them. The trials of worth have been happening for over 3,000 years. Every species in the Galactic Coalition sends one warrior. The warrior fights in challenges. The species whose warrior performs best gains political influence in the council. And if I lose badly? Asked. His expression darkened. Humanity joined the coalition 15 years ago. We are still the members. Most species see us as primitive, weak. If you are humiliated in the arena, it will affect trade agreements, territory rights, and how other species treat human colonies. No pressure then, said quietly. I am not telling you this to scare you, said. I am telling you because you deserve to know what is at stake. Ambassador Wu is already at the station. He will be in the diplomatic box during the trials. Whatever happens, we are here to support you. The ship docked with a heavy clang, felt his stomach tighten. The station interior was overwhelming. The corridors were huge, designed to accommodate species of all sizes. Saw creatures he recognized from briefings and many he did not. A being made of what looked like living crystal floated past. A massive creature with 6 legs and armored skin stomped down a side corridor, making the floor shake. Everywhere he looked saw warriors. They were all bigger than him, stronger, more dangerous looking. 2 guards escorted him to his quarters. They were not human. They looked like upright reptiles with 4 arms and golden eyes. They did not speak to him. His room was small but functional. A bed, a bathroom, an equipment locker. On the bed lay his combat gear. Standard human military equipment modified for the trials. Body armor, basic weapons, tools, nothing fancy. Sat on the bed and put his face in his hands. What was he doing here? A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Come in, he said. A young woman entered. She carried a camera drone that floated beside her shoulder. Shin, I am covering the trials for Earth News Network. Do you have time for a few questions? Wanted to say no, but he nodded instead. Sat across from him. The camera drone positioned itself to capture both of them. How are you feeling about tomorrow? Nervous, said honestly. You are not what people expected, said. Most species send their strongest warriors, their best soldiers. You are an engineer. I know. Why do you think Earth chose you? Had thought about this question many times. I do not think Earth chose me. The computer chose randomly. Maybe that is the point. We do not have super soldiers or genetic modifications. We are just regular people. Smiled slightly. And you think a regular person can compete with alien champions? "I think a regular person can try," said. "That is all anyone can do." The interview ended soon after, wished him luck and left with her camera drone. Spent the rest of the evening studying files on the other warriors. There were 15 total, not counting himself. He memorized their names, their species, their known abilities. The warrior had acidic blood and an exoskeleton that could deflect most weapons. Had 6 arms and could move faster than human eyes could track. Could regenerate from almost any wound. The list went on. Each warrior was a killing machine, bred or built for combat. Was just a man who fixed water pumps. He lay in bed but could not sleep. His mind kept racing through scenarios, trying to find angles, looking for weaknesses. That was what he did. He solved problems. But how do you solve the problem of being weaker than everyone else? Finally, exhaustion took him. He woke to an alarm. 6 hours until the opening ceremony. Put on his combat gear slowly, checking each piece carefully. The armor fit well. The weapons were clean and functional. He had a standard plasma pistol, a combat knife, and a multi-tool. Not much, but it was what humans had. Came to escort him to the preparation area. As they walked through the corridors, noticed other warriors moving toward the same destination. None of them looked at him. He was beneath their notice. They entered a massive chamber beneath the arena. Each warrior had a designated area, found his spot marked with Earth's flag. Around him, the other warriors prepared. Some meditated, some tested weapons, some roared or made aggressive displays. Sat quietly and watched. A holographic announcement appeared in the air. The opening ceremony would begin in 30 minutes. All warriors were to proceed to the entrance tunnels. Stood and checked his equipment one final time. His hands were steady. That surprised him. He walked to his assigned tunnel. Through the darkness ahead, he could hear something massive, a rumbling, roaring sound that made his chest vibrate. The crowd, 50,000 beings from across the galaxy, all waiting to watch warriors fight. Waiting to see who was strong and who was weak. Waiting to see if the human would survive even one day. Took a deep breath. Then he started walking toward the light at the end of the tunnel, toward the sound of the crowd, toward whatever waited for him in the arena. He was not the strongest warrior here. He was not the fastest or the most skilled. But he was here, and he would not quit. That would have to be enough. The light hit like a physical force. He stepped out of the tunnel and into the arena, and the noise of the crowd crashed over him like a wave. 50,000 voices, screaming, roaring, chittering, making sounds he had never heard before. The arena floor was huge. A circle of dark sand stretched out for nearly 200 meters. Above, the dome ceiling showed the stars beyond, making it feel like they were fighting in open space. Around the edges, rising up in massive tiers, the crowd packed every seat. Looked up at them. Thousands of different species, all here to watch warriors kill each other. The other warriors emerged from their tunnels one by one. Each entrance was accompanied by announcements in multiple languages. His translator implant fed him the words. From the Empire, undefeated in 12 trials, the acid storm. A massive creature stepped into the light. It stood over 9 feet tall, covered in dark exoskeleton that gleamed like polished metal. The crowd roared approval. From the Harmony, blessed with 6 arms of fury, the dancer of blades. The 6-armed warrior moved with liquid grace. Each hand held a different weapon. The crowd's noise grew louder. One by one, the champions appeared. Each was greeted with cheers and displays of respect. Each was clearly a master of combat, chosen from millions of their kind. Then came's turn. From the human worlds, the engineer Shin. The announcement was flat, emotionless, and then the laughter started. It began in one section and spread like wildfire through the crowd. 50,000 beings, laughing at the human who walked onto the arena floor in basic armor with basic weapons. laughing at the small, weak creature who thought he belonged with champions. His face burned, but he kept walking. He took his place in the line of warriors. In the diplomatic box high above, Ambassador Wu gripped the railing. Stood beside him, her face tight with anger at the disrespect. His camera drone captured everything. A massive holographic display appeared above the arena. A being did not recognize spoke in a booming voice that echoed from all directions. Warriors of the Galactic Coalition, welcome to the trials of worth. You represent the finest your species can offer. Through combat, through skill, through strength, you will prove your people's value to the galaxy. The speech continued, explaining rules and procedures. Only half listened. He was studying the other warriors, looking for weaknesses, looking for anything that might help him survive. The first challenge begins now, the voice announced. The maze of fangs. The arena floor split open. Walls rose from beneath the sand, forming a complex maze. Automated weapons emerged from hidden ports. Energy barriers flickered to life. Enter the maze, reach the center, survive. The warriors moved forward, followed, staying toward the back. He watched as simply smashed through a wall, using brute strength to make a direct path. Other warriors followed similar strategies, relying on power and speed. Took a different approach. He studied the weapons that emerged from the walls. They followed patterns. Scan, target, fire, 3 seconds between each cycle. He timed his movements carefully, slipping past when the weapons were recharging. An energy barrier blocked his path. Other warriors were forcing their way through them, taking damage from the electricity that arced across the barriers. Knelt and examined the base of the barrier. There was a control node, poorly shielded. He used his multi-tool to access it. The barrier flickered and died. He moved forward, solving each obstacle like a puzzle rather than attacking it head-on. Disable the weapons, redirect the barriers, find the path of least resistance. In the crowd, some began to notice. The laughter quieted slightly, replaced by confusion. The human was not fighting the maze, he was dismantling it. Reached the center in the middle of the pack, not first but far from last. And unlike many of the warriors around him, he was not injured or exhausted. The commentators, 3 different species talking over each other, discussed the results. The human shows cunning, but cunning will not save him when he faces real warriors. Look at barely scratched, that is true power. The human plays with wires like a child fixing toys. This is combat, not a classroom. More laughter from the crowd. Ignored it. He had learned something important. The challenges were designed to test combat ability, but they were still machines. Machines could be understood. Machines could be beaten. The second challenge began immediately. The test of strength. Move the monoliths to the designated zones. Speed and power will be rewarded. Massive crystalline blocks rose from the arena floor. Each weighed several tons. The warriors had to move them across the arena to marked zones. Grabbed a monolith and lifted it with a roar. The crowd went wild. Used all 6 arms to push one, moving it quickly across the sand. Morg, the regenerating, simply charged into a monolith like a bull, using raw momentum to push it forward. Walked to his assigned monolith and put his hands on it. He pushed. It did not move even slightly. Laughter again, louder this time. The human cannot even begin the test. This is embarrassing. Why did Earth send such a weak creature? Stepped back and looked at the problem. He could not move the monolith with strength, but he did not need to. He examined the base. The monolith sat on the sand, which meant friction was the main resistance. He used his combat knife to dig trenches in front of the monolith. Then he found pieces of metal from the destroyed maze walls and placed them in the trenches. He created a ramp. Using leverage from a piece of broken wall as a fulcrum, began to work. It was slow. It was exhausting. But the monolith began to move, sliding on the metal pieces he had placed beneath it. The other warriors finished first, finished last. But he finished. In the diplomatic box, Wu let out a breath he had been holding. He completed it. Barely, said, but there was a hint of something in her voice. Not quite hope, but not despair either. The warriors were given 30 minutes to rest and prepare, sat in his designated rest area, breathing hard. His muscles ached from moving the monolith, but his mind was working. He was learning the patterns, understanding the environment. Appeared beside him with water and medical supplies. You did well. I came in last, said. You completed the challenge, that is what matters. She cleaned a cut on his arm. The next phase begins soon, one-on-one combat eliminations. Nodded, he had known this was coming. Your first match is against a warrior, not but one of their other representatives, still 6 arms, still faster than you. Any advice? Asked. Looked at him seriously. Stay alive. Learn. The first fight is not about winning. It is about surviving long enough to understand your opponent. The announcement came. Warriors were called to their combat circles. The arena floor had been divided into 8 separate fighting rings, each surrounded by energy barriers. Walked to ring 7. Across from him stood his opponent, a warrior, smaller than but still terrifying. 6 arms, each holding a weapon, multiple eyes that could track movement from all angles. The warrior looked at and made a sound that the translator interpreted as contemptuous laughter. The barrier activated, sealing them both inside. The holographic referee appeared. Combat will continue until one warrior yields or is unable to continue. Begin. They attacked immediately, 6 arms moving in a blur, barely dodged the first strike. The second caught him in the ribs, sending him stumbling back. The crowd roared. Raised his arms to defend himself. He was outmatched in every way, but he had one advantage. He had nothing to lose, and that made him free to take risks no one expected. The fight had only just begun. The warrior's third arm struck across the face. Pain exploded through his skull and blood filled his mouth. He staggered backward, barely keeping his feet. The crowd loved it. Their cheers shook the arena. Spat blood onto the sand and raised his fists again. His opponent circled him, all 6 arms weaving patterns in the air. There was toying with him, making a show of it. Another strike came from the left. Tried to block, but 2 more arms hit him from different angles. His armor absorbed some of the impact, but not enough. He felt something crack in his chest. A rib, maybe 2. Yield, human, the said in heavily accented standard speech. This is not your place. Did not yield. He could not. If he quit now, humanity would be marked as cowards. Better to be beaten than to surrender. But he could not win by fighting the same way. They had 6 arms, 6 weapons, 6 angles of attack, had 2 arms and no hope of matching that speed. So he stopped trying to match it. The next time they attacked, did something unexpected. Instead of dodging backward, he moved forward, directly into the range where those 6 arms were most dangerous. They was surprised. Just for a moment the attack pattern broke. Used that moment. He grabbed one of his arms and pulled himself close, inside the reach of the weapons. This close, the 6 arms became a disadvantage. They could not swing properly without hitting itself. Drove his elbow into what he hoped was a vulnerable spot. They made a hissing sound of pain. But then the other arms adapted. They grabbed and threw him across the ring. He hit the energy barrier and collapsed to the sand. The crowd's laughter had changed slightly. There was confusion in it now. The human refuses to die properly, one commentator said. Forced himself to stand. His vision swam. His body screamed for him to stay down. He stood anyway. They attacked again. This time was watching carefully. He noticed something. A pattern. After the third arm struck, there was a tiny delay before the fourth arm moved. Less than a second. But it was there. Filed that information away. He could not use it yet. He was too slow, too injured, but he remembered it. The fight continued, took more hits than he gave. His armor was cracked in a dozen places. Blood ran from cuts on his face and arms, but he did not fall. He kept moving, kept watching, kept learning. Finally, the grew frustrated. A powerful combination of strikes from all 6 arms hit from multiple directions. He went down hard, the breath knocked from his lungs. The referee's hologram appeared. "Shin, can you continue?" Tried to speak but could not get enough air. The world was spinning. In the diplomatic box, Wu looked away. He could not watch. But then moved. He got his hands under himself, pushed up. His arms shook with effort, but he rose to his knees, then to his feet. The crowd went silent for a moment, shocked. "Yes," gasped, "I can continue." The eyes widened. "Why, you cannot win." "Probably not," admitted. His words came out slurred through split lips, "but I can make you work for it." Something changed in this expression. Respect, maybe. Or perhaps just the understanding that this would not be the easy victory expected. The fight lasted another 5 minutes. Managed to land a few more hits, using the delay he had noticed to create small openings. But in the end, this superior speed and strength won out. A final combination of strikes put on the ground, and this time he could not get up. The referee declared the winner. Medical drones rushed into the ring. They loaded onto a floating stretcher and carried him to the medical center beneath the arena. In the crowd, the laughter had stopped. They had expected the human to quit after the first few hits. Instead, he had fought for almost 15 minutes against a superior opponent. "Stubborn," one commentator said. "Foolish," another replied. "What did he gain? Only pain." But some in the crowd were thinking differently. The human had learned during the fight, had adapted, had noticed patterns and tried to exploit them. That showed intelligence. That showed something more dangerous than strength. Woke in the medical center. His body was wrapped in regenerative bandages. An alien doctor, a species did not recognize, was monitoring equipment beside his bed. "You will heal," the doctor said. "Your species is remarkably resilient, nothing permanently damaged." "How long until the next fight?" asked. "Tomorrow, but you should withdraw. You are not equipped for this level of combat." Closed his eyes. The doctor was right. He had barely survived one fight. How could he win any? Footsteps approached, entered the room, followed by with her camera drone. "How do you feel?" asked. "Like I was hit by 6 people at once," said. "That is accurate," said. She sat beside his bed. "You can withdraw, no one would blame you." "Yes, they would," said quietly. "Earth would be marked as quitters. Better to quit than to die." Looked at her. "I learned something today that has a weakness, a tiny delay in the attack pattern. I could not use it because I was too slow, but it is there." Frowned. "What does that matter? You will not fight that specific warrior again." "No, but others fight the same way. It is probably how they are trained. All 6-armed species might have similar patterns, and if one species has predictable patterns, others might too." Understanding dawned on his face. "You are gathering information." "I am solving the problem," said. "I cannot be stronger or faster, but I can be smarter. I can learn. Every fight teaches me something." Stepped forward, her camera still recording. "The video of your fight has spread across human networks. People are calling you brave." "I am not brave," said. "I am just too stubborn to quit." "Maybe that is the same thing," said. The next day, returned to the arena. His body still ached despite the medical treatment, but he could move. The second round of eliminations began. This time was matched against a different species, a rock-like creature from a high-gravity world. It moved slowly, but its skin was nearly impenetrable. Did not try to hurt it. Instead, he made it chase him around the ring, wearing it down, making it waste energy. The crowd booed at the boring fight, but did not care. He studied how the creature moved where its balance was weakest. After 30 minutes, the rock creature was exhausted, used a piece of broken equipment to trip it, and once it fell, it could not get its massive weight up again. 1. The crowd was silent with shock, then confusion, then a mixture of boos and reluctant cheers. The human had actually won a fight. In the following rounds faced other opponents. He lost more than he won, but each fight he learned more. He began to recognize patterns across different species, combat styles, weaknesses, strengths. The other warriors began to notice him, started to watch him differently. After his third victory, against a warrior everyone expected to crush him easily, the whispers started. The human is dangerous. Not in strength but in strategy. He learns that is his weapon. Sat in his quarters after the day's fights. His body was covered in new injuries on top of the old ones, but he was still in the trials, still fighting. Visited him with the day's results. 12 warriors had been eliminated. Only 8 remained, including. "You have made it to the quarterfinals," said. "No one expected this." "Who do I fight next?" asked. Hesitated. The 6-armed champion of, the one favored to win the entire tournament. Nodded slowly. He had watched fight, had studied every movement, was everything the warrior he fought in the first round was, but better in every way, faster, stronger, more experienced. "The odds are 500 to 1 against you," said. That high, tried to smile, but his split lip made it painful. "You can withdraw with honor now. You have proven humanity is not weak." "Have I?" asked, "or have I just proven we can lose slowly?" He closed his eyes and thought. He had been learning, adapting, but was it enough? In his mind he reviewed everything he knew about 6-armed fighters, the patterns, the delays, the balance points. Maybe, just maybe, if he was smart enough, if he was willing to take the biggest risk of his life, maybe he could win. The arena was packed than it had been any previous day. Word had spread across the galaxy. The human who should have died in the first round was still fighting. Now he faced the champion of in the semifinals. Betting stations reported the odds, 500 to 1 against the human. Some said those odds were generous. Walked through the tunnel toward the arena floor. Each step sent pain through his body. The medical treatments had healed the worst damage, but he was still covered in bruises and half-healed cuts. Against a normal opponent, he would be at a severe disadvantage. He was walking toward certain defeat. Or so everyone thought. Had not slept the night before. Instead, he had reviewed every second of footage he could find of fighting. Hours and hours of combat, studied frame by frame. He had found it. The same weakness he had noticed in the first fighter, but now he understood it better. It was not just a delay. It was a fundamental limitation of having 6 arms. The neural pathways could not fire all 6 simultaneously with full precision. There had to be a sequence, and sequences could be predicted. Was better at hiding it than the other fighters. The delay was shorter, harder to spot, but it was there. That was not enough to win, but it was a start. Reached the preparation area beneath the arena. Across from him was warming up. The 6-armed champion moved through combat forms that looked like a deadly dance. Each arm held a different weapon. Swords, daggers, energy blades, all moving in perfect coordination. Noticed watching and approached. Up close, there was even more impressive. Tall, muscular, covered in the traditional warrior markings of their culture. "Human," said, the voice was surprisingly soft. "You have fought well, better than any expected, but this ends today." "Probably," agreed. Tilted his head, confusion in those multiple eyes. "You know you cannot win, yet you fight anyway. Why?" "Because someone has to," said simply. "That is not logical." "No," agreed, "but humans are not always logical." The announcement came, time to enter the arena. The crowd's roar when emerged was deafening. The champion of raised all 6 arms, weapons gleaming in the light. The crowd chanted its name. When emerged, there was a different sound, not quite laughter anymore, something more complex, curiosity mixed with doubt. The human had survived this long. Could he possibly survive this? In the diplomatic box, Ambassador Wu gripped the railing so hard his knuckles were white, stood beside him, her face unreadable. His camera captured everything. Across the galaxy, billions watched. On Earth, in the Mars colonies, on the orbital stations, humans gathered around screens. The engineer who had been chosen by lottery was representing all of them. Walked to the center of the arena, stood across from him. The holographic referee appeared between them. This is a semi-final match. Combat continues until one warrior yields or is unable to continue. Killing is permitted but discouraged. Are both warriors ready? Ready, said. Nodded. Begin. Did not rush forward. The champion was too experienced for that. Instead, circled, all 6 weapons moving in patterns designed to confuse and intimidate. The crowd went wild. This was what they had come to see. The champion against the underdog, skill against desperation. Did not move. He stood still, watching, waiting. Will you not attack? Called. Not yet, replied. Made the first move. A testing strike, quick and controlled, dodged to the side, barely. Another strike, another dodge. The crowd began to boo. They wanted action, not dancing. But was not dancing. He was counting, measuring, timing. His pattern was complex, but it existed. Left arm high, right arm low, second pair mid-level, third pair defensive. Then the sequence shifted. The delay came after the third left arm finished its motion. 0.3 seconds. Not much, but it was something. Attacked faster, growing annoyed at its refusal to engage properly. The 6 arms became a blur of motion. Could not dodge them all. One blade caught his shoulder, cutting through armor. Another struck his leg. Blood flowed onto the sand. The crowd cheered. Stumbled backward, bleeding, hurting. But his eyes never left. He was still watching, still counting. Fight back, someone in the crowd yelled. Ignored them. He needed to commit fully, to go for a finishing strike. And, confident in victory, gave him that opportunity. All 6 arms struck at once, a devastating combination meant to end the fight. Had been waiting for this. He moved. Not away, toward. He dropped low, rolling under the strikes, and came up inside's guard. He had modified his combat knife the night before, adding a handle extension using parts from his multi-tool. Not much, but it gave him extra reach. In the 0.3 seconds after his third left arm completed its strike, before the defensive arms could reposition, struck. Not its body, at the champion's feet. Like all 6 armed, was top-heavy. The extra arms meant more weight carried high. Their balance point was higher than a 2-armed being. His blade cut through the weak point behind his left knee. Stumbled just for a second, but a second was enough. Had spent his last night not just studying patterns but preparing the arena itself. Earlier, when no one was watching, he had loosened a section of the sand, making it less stable. He had lured to this exact spot. His wounded leg came down on the loose sand. The weight shifted. The champion, off balance, began to fall. In that moment, made the hardest decision of his life. He had a flash device, cobbled together from parts of broken equipment he had collected over the days of fighting. It was crude, unstable. It would only work once. He activated it. Brilliant light exploded through the arena. His multiple eyes, evolved to track movement from all angles, were overwhelmed. The champion was blind. Moved on instinct, on training, on desperate hope. He swept his good leg. The champion fell. All 6 arms flailed, trying to catch balance, but there was none to catch. Hit the sand hard. And did not hesitate, could not hesitate. This was his only chance. He dropped onto his back, his knife at the champion's throat. Yield, gasped. The arena had gone silent. 50,000 beings holding their breath. The champion of, the Dancer of Blades, undefeated in 9 tournaments, lay in the sand with a human's knife at his throat. Yield said again. Could have fought, could have thrown off, could have continued. But the champion was a warrior, not a fool. The fight was lost. I yield, said quietly. The referee's hologram appeared. Winner, Shin of Earth. For 3 heartbeats, the arena remained silent. Then chaos erupted. Half the crowd was roaring in disbelief. The other half was screaming in outrage. Betting stations were overwhelmed with complaints. The impossible had happened. The human had won. In the diplomatic box, Wu sat down heavily, his face pale, was staring at the arena floor with her mouth open. His camera shook as her hands trembled. On Earth, in the colonies across human space, people were screaming, crying, celebrating. Stood slowly, his body was shaking, blood ran from his wounds. He looked down at, still on the sand. You fought with honor, said, rising. I underestimated you, that was my failure. You are a better fighter than me, said honestly. Perhaps, but today you were the better warrior, bowed, a gesture of deep respect and culture. Humans are not what we thought. Turned to face the crowd. They were still in chaos, still unable to process what they had witnessed. He said nothing. He just stood there, covered in blood and sweat and sand, while the galaxy tried to understand what humans were capable of. The silence in that moment was louder than any roar. The engineer from Mars had just defeated a champion, and the galaxy would never forget it. The medical center was chaos. Alien reporters tried to force their way in. Security drones blocked the doorways. Everyone wanted to talk to the human who had done the impossible. Sat on the medical bed while doctors worked on his injuries. His shoulder needed synthetic tissue. His leg had a deep cut that required sealing. A dozen smaller wounds covered his body. But he was alive, and he had won. Pushed through the crowd outside and entered the room. Her usual calm expression was gone, replaced by something had never seen before. Wonder. The galaxy is losing its mind, she said. Every news network is broadcasting your fight on repeat. The betting houses are in chaos. 3 different species have filed formal complaints saying your tactics were dishonorable. Were they? Asked. No, you followed all the rules. You simply fought in a way no one expected. Sat beside him. You used intelligence instead of strength, strategy instead of power. You turned your weaknesses into advantages. I got lucky, he said. Maybe, but you created the conditions for that luck. She pulled up a holographic display. The political implications are already starting. The Empire has requested human tactical advisors for their military. They want to study human combat psychology. Even they are interested in cross-training programs. Because I won one fight. Because you showed them what humans are. We are not the strongest. We are not the fastest, but we learn, we adapt, we refuse to quit. His voice grew softer. That terrifies them more than any weapon. Ambassador Wu entered the room, followed by and her ever-present camera drone. Shin, Wu said formally, on behalf of Earth and all human colonies, I thank you. You have done more for humanity's position in the galaxy in one day than decades of diplomacy could achieve. I just fought, said. You did more than that. You changed how they see us. Stepped forward. The whole human race is watching. Is there anything you want to say to them? Thought about it. What could he say? That he was scared the entire time. That he nearly quit a dozen times. That he was just a man who fixed water pumps and had no business being here. Tell them we are still here, he finally said. Tell them humans do not quit. The next day was the finals, against the champion, the Acid Storm, undefeated in 12 tournaments. Could barely stand. The medical treatments had healed the worst damage, but his body was running on willpower alone. He had not slept. Pain medication kept him functional, but his reactions were slow. He watched footage of fighting. That was brutal, efficient, nearly unstoppable. 9 feet of armored exoskeleton, acidic blood that melted anything it touched, strength that could tear steel. There was no clever trick that would work against, no pattern to exploit. The fought with pure, overwhelming force. Knew he could not win. But he also knew he had to try. The arena was even more crowded than the day before. Beings from across the galaxy had traveled to witness this. The human underdog against the undefeated champion. Some came hopping to see the human win again. Most came to see him finally lose. Walked into the arena to a sound he never expected: cheers. Not from everyone. Many in the crowd still hated him, still saw humanity as upstarts who did not belong. But there were others now. Beings who appreciated what he represented, the triumph of determination over destiny. Entered to thunderous approval. The raised his massive arms and roared. The crowd roared back. The two warriors faced each other in the center of the arena. Spoke his voice like grinding metal. Human, you have my respect. You defeated through cunning, but cunning will not save you from me. I am not blinded by patterns or ego. I am simply stronger than you. I know, said. Then why fight? Why not yield now and spare yourself pain? Thought about the question. Why was he doing this? He had already proven humanity's worth. He had earned respect. He could withdraw with honor. But that was not enough. Because someone has to show them we do not quit, said. Even when we cannot win, especially when we cannot win. Nodded slowly. Then I will give you a warrior's death. It is more than most receive. The referee appeared. Final match begin. Moved with surprising speed for something so large. A massive fist came at like a falling boulder. Dodged but not fast enough. The blow caught his side and sent him flying across the arena. He hit the sand and rolled, gasping. Advanced, there was no showboating, no playing with the opponent, just efficient, brutal combat. Tried to fight back. He used every trick he had learned, every tactic, every adaptation. None of it mattered. Was simply too strong, too tough, too experienced. A strike broke his arm, another cracked his ribs. He could taste blood. The crowd watched in silence. Even those who wanted to see the human lose felt uncomfortable watching this methodical destruction. Went down, got up, went down again. Stay down, said. There was no mockery in the voice, almost sadness. You have proven your courage. There is no shame in yielding. Spat blood onto the sand. Not yet. He rose again. His body screamed. His broken arm hung useless, but he stood. Hesitated. Why? Because that is what humans do, said. His voice was barely a whisper. We endure. The fight continued. Could not win, he knew it, knew it. Everyone watching knew it. But fought anyway for 5 more minutes, 10, 15. Every time he fell, he rose. Every time expected him to quit, he continued. Finally, a massive strike put on his back. He tried to rise, but his body would not respond. The medical override in his system forced him down, preventing further damage. The referee declared the winner. The crowd erupted, but it was not the sound of mockery. It was something else, something that had never been given to a losing warrior before. Respect. Walked to where lay, the knelt beside the broken human. You are the bravest warrior I have faced, said. Not the strongest, not the most skilled, but the bravest. Your people should be proud. Medical drones rushed in. As they loaded onto the stretcher, the crowd began to chant, Not's name. In the medical center, as doctors worked to repair the damage, brought news. The Council has made an official declaration. Humanity has been granted full member status in the coalition, with all accompanying rights and privileges. The trial period is over. Because I lost, asked confused. Because you showed them who we are. We do not need to be the strongest species. We do not need to win every fight. We just need to refuse to quit. That is more dangerous than any weapon. Over the following weeks, as recovered, the impact of the trials became clear. Military academies across the galaxy requested to study human tactics. The emphasis on adaptability and problem-solving was being incorporated into training programs. Species that had viewed humans as weak now saw them differently, not as equals in strength but as something perhaps more valuable, beings who could endure anything, who could learn from defeat, who could turn losses into lessons. Bin Lee, a human military observer, sent a report to Earth Command. It ended with a simple line: "They do not fear our weapons, they fear our refusal to accept defeat." 3 months after the trials, returned to Mars, to his job fixing water recycling systems, to his quiet life in the colonies. But everything had changed. Human children played games pretending to be the engineer who fought in the arena. Recruitment for the diplomatic corps increased by 300%. Humanity's voice in the council carried new weight. One evening, as worked on a broken pump in Tunnel 7, found him. "Still fixing machines?" she asked. "It is what I do," said. "You could do anything now. You are the most famous human in the galaxy." "I know, but I like fixing things." He looked up at her. "Everything is a puzzle, everything can be solved. Even the trials." "I did not solve the trials, I just survived them." "That was enough." Smiled, "Yes, it was." His camera drone captured one final image. The warrior who had made the galaxy go silent, covered in grease and sweat, smiling as he fixed a water pump in a Mars colony tunnel. The image was broadcast across human networks with a simple caption: "This is who we are." Not warriors, not conquerors, just people who solved problems, who endured hardship, who refused to quit. And the galaxy, which had laughed at the human warrior, would never laugh at humanity again. They had learned what it meant to face a species that would not break, that could not be intimidated, that turned every obstacle into a lesson and every defeat into determination. The arena had gone silent when won. But it was his defeat that truly taught the galaxy to respect humanity. Because humans did not need to win to prove their worth. They only needed to endure, to adapt, to keep standing no matter how many times they fell. That was the human way. And now the entire galaxy knew it.